In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a huge update in the tropics department. We're also going to be taking a look at a potential snowstorm for the northwest and north central United States, as well as some upcoming storminess in general. Let's just get straight into things though, and first things first, we're taking a look at our current radar imagery. As you can see, there's plenty of storminess happening out west. And then also here along the east coast and in through the Great Lakes, it kind of curves in just like that, but we see a lot of that going on here for the Gulf, the southeast, and then onshore of the northeast and the Great Lakes here. We have some storminess associated with a bit of a low in those regions. Let's just start out here in our northwesternmost corner of the United States, and as you can see, plenty of storminess here for portions of Washington, Oregon, Idaho, and Montana. We see showers light to moderate here for a lot of folks. There is some oranges popping up at times, which would probably be a bit more heavy. But for the most part, we're seeing mostly lighter showers. Those yellow regions, if they happen to head over you, will be a bit heavier, more on the moderate side of things, I would say. As we take a look at the southwest, we see that there's plenty of showery activity happening for these areas. California, mostly on the eastern side of things. We see Nevada also mostly on the eastern side of things. Then for Arizona there, we see northern Arizona dealing with the light to moderate rainfall, mostly moderate though. We're seeing a lot of those widespread yellows. And then Utah, it's scattered about the entire state here. There is pretty big pockets of those yellow and oranges indicating moderate precipitation for those regions as well. And then we see for New Mexico and Texas, we have some isolated activity down there. Now for the Gulf of Mexico region, we do have these isolated and scattered thunderstorms about, mostly over water at this point, but as I mentioned yesterday, throughout the afternoon and evening time, typically these are going to become more widespread for land. So for Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and Florida, there's a good possibility that later today, just like every other day, there's going to be thunderstorms brewing for these regions. When I say every day, I mean from April till October for the most part, or maybe it's even more than that or less, but that seems to be the time frame where we take a look at widespread scattered activity almost daily. Now, offshore of the southeast, and I mean just offshore, we see that there is some storminess here kind of impacting the Outer Banks. They seem to usually get things that are over the ocean when other places do not. However, these seem to be moving mostly in an easterly direction, so these should become less and less likely to impact actual land here. As we move towards the northeast and Great Lakes, we can see that there is a bit of a low somewhere here nearby Lake Erie, I would say. So they're near Pennsylvania and northern Ohio there. We have plenty of these showers heading southward through Michigan here. We have the rotating storm here over Ohio and Pennsylvania. And then we have showers mostly, but also some thunderstorms moving mostly northward here through the northeast and New England. There is some heavier pockets in here that I want to talk about. One here for the Adirondacks, where we're seeing some heavy precipitation here, possibly thunderstorms for northern New York there, and then southern New England here, Connecticut, Rhode Island, even Long Island there, and then soon to be southeastern Massachusetts. We're going to see these heavier pockets of thunderstorms moving through there. The coastal regions of Connecticut just kind of finished up there, finishing up in Rhode Island, and by the time this video is getting out, it's going to be affecting those very southern coastlines of Massachusetts, including Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, by the way. Now what we're going to do is we're going to move on. We're going to talk about the upcoming pattern as far as storminess, tropics, and even that potential snowstorm as well. Now here we are taking a look at the upcoming pattern. As you can see, we have this storminess that we have ongoing right now popping up. So this model is in fact accurate for what's happening right now, which is to be expected. So nothing crazy there. As we can see, by the time we're reaching tomorrow, Wednesday, September 14th, we have this low moving up into Canada. That's going to be moving out. We do have some storminess offshore of the southeast and the Gulf states here. So a little bit further south of the storminess tomorrow. And then we have some of this western storminess still ongoing. By the time we reach Thursday, the 15th, we have some storminess up here for more of the northern United States. And a little bit less again here for the southeast, a little bit quieter. Seems to be the trend. Friday, the 16th here of September, we could see plenty of scattered about storminess here in the northwestern and north central United States. Again, the southeast and the Gulf states won't be able to ever fully escape that storminess this time of year, but it seems to be much receded from what we've been seeing recently. Saturday, same thing. Again, a little bit of storminess in here. And then we have this scattered, spotty storminess throughout the north central and northwestern United States. That's Saturday the 17th. Sunday, the 18th, we get our first little bit of blue popping up. I'll show you guys that in a minute. We see the Gulf States southeast having some storminess there. Also, another low moving through kind of the Great Lakes regions. It's a bit further north, but we do see some of this storminess down in here from that. And then we see this storm out west with a big trough out there. This is leading towards some snowfall there in the northern Sierra Nevadas there. So we're seeing some of that taking place. Probably that night we'll see more. No, actually not really. That seems to be the peak of it. By the time I reach Monday, the 19th here, we see some more storminess here for the northeast. Still some for the Gulf States in the southeast. And then the northwest dealing with some pretty potent storminess here. By the time I reach Tuesday, we're seeing even more here through the southwest and the Four Corner states in general. We can see for the northwest, we're seeing some snowfall in there, and then a lot quieter out east. We do have some storminess here for the northeast and a little bit here for the Gulf states still, but really most of the action seems to be happening here out west in between that trough and ridge. We get this flow of storminess by Thursday the 22nd. Kind of heading in through the Four Corner states mostly. We see a bit of a trough developing here in the east by this point, but we're going to see that kind of shift out west over time. Here's Sunday the 25th. We still have some storminess down here, getting a lot quieter. We do have a tropical system that's going to develop into a hurricane on this model run. I think so. Yeah, probably. We see this one develop offshore the Florida Keys. This is 330 hours out. We shouldn't really be paying too much attention to location. And actually, I kind of need to go back because there's a lot happening here that I need to not just skip over. We see that this is developing there near southern Florida. This could go totally offshore the East Coast. It could go into the East Coast. It could go into Florida. It could go south of Florida through the southern Gulf. It could go into the Gulf states somewhere in here. Every possibility is possible. Everything you could imagine is possible because this is 300 hours out. So keep that in mind. But this particular model run on this particular, just this time around, this is what it shows. And next time it might show nothing. It might show a different track. Anything is really possible here. We see some deep Arctic air kind of infiltrating into southern Canada here. This is going to be the most potent Arctic blast of the entire season so far. And again, I must remind you guys that my definition and really the most logical explanation for an Arctic blast is not a particular temperature. Like, it doesn't have to be 20 degrees or less to be considered an Arctic blast. It's just an air mass coming from the Arctic and blasting into the United States. That's why we don't call it Arctic temperatures. We call it Arctic blasts. If you were to say Arctic temperatures, obviously you'd be talking about frigid temperatures. But in this case, we're talking, well, for some areas, we're talking about frigid temperatures in this case. But for the most part, all we mean is that an Arctic air mass is moving in. So we have seen multiple of these, even as early as August. It's, mid-August. It's very normal to see the Arctic air mass move down. That doesn't bring 40 degrees temperatures in August. It brings more like 10 degrees below normal at times. Sometimes it's near normal temperatures, but the air is a lot more like what the Arctic is like because that air mass is coming from there. In this case, we can clearly see this is blasting down with just aggression. I mean, we see this would be a really early season snowstorm for a lot of these areas. Yes, the thumbnail was not a joke. We do expect a potential pretty wild snowstorm here from Montana and Wyoming, eastward through the Dakotas and Minnesota, Wisconsin, potentially as well. And at the same time, we have this deep, deep, deep Arctic air all the way, working its way well south into Canada, which is just a sign of the time of year we're in. But we also have, again, this hurricane developing on this model run here for southern Florida. So a lot of crazy stuff happening. As time moves on, we can see this storm intensifies. We see this low develops here, and it's kind of a recycling of that snowstorm, and we get a much more major snowstorm here developing for Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, the Dakotas here by Tuesday the 27th. So yes, very, very far out, but this model is trending at some snow storms here for the month of September for some odd areas. For the Rockies, it wouldn't be as crazy, but to see it for the Dakotas, Minnesota, Wisconsin, this, in fact, would be very, very wild for this early in the season. Usually you have to wait at least a month after this for these types of events for these areas. So this would be truly crazy. We see this hurricane in the middle of the Gulf. So it kind of skirts through here and then gets to that point, and then we have a lot of snow falling to the north. And it looks like that snowstorm kind of comes to an end over this region, Wisconsin, Michigan, the lower and upper peninsula. And then we have a hurricane about to approach Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, those areas, the coastal regions there. But that's the end of the model run, so that's all we get. Again, take these two things with a grain of salt. It is interesting to note that this model is trending at one, a stronger tropical cyclone. That's something that we can definitely take into consideration. And it's trending at some snowiness for some odd areas in the long range. These are two things that we can definitely take away from a model in the long range. It would be probably not a good idea to take away, for instance, it has a hurricane hitting Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama, because that's a more specific detail that the model is going to just be all over the place with. But in general, it has this storm developing, and that's a little bit more of something that can be taken more into consideration in the long range, as well as a snowstorm in general, without really paying attention too much to the location yet. It's showing really deep cold air with that snowfall being possible. I hope this makes sense. If you have any questions, you can leave them down below and I can explain further. Here's the total precipitation through the next 10 days. Southeast, a little bit quieter. Very odd after they've had months and months of very, very active conditions. We can see anywhere in the whites, you're expecting practically no precipitation over the next 15 days, so the rest of September for a lot of these areas. The grays will be anywhere from 1/10 of an inch or less. Your greens will be 1/10 of an inch to 1/2 an inch. Your blues will be 1/2 an inch to an inch. Your yellows will be 1 inch to 2 inches. Your reds will be 2 to 5 inches. And then your browns will be 5 to 10 inches of precipitation. And we see we clearly get that amount where that hurricane goes. We get blues 10 to 15, and we even get some purples there near the Florida Keys, which would be 15 to 20 inches of rainfall. Again, this might not happen. This might go north. This might go south. This might go, anywhere other than this. And the chance of it actually taking this exact track and dropping that exact amount of rainfall is next to none. So keep that in mind as well. Here's the total snowfall through the next 15 days, and we can see that this snowstorm would be probably a major one if it was to develop how this GFS model shows it. Grays would be a dusting, if anything. Blues would be 2 to 6 inches of snowfall. Purples would be 6 to 10. Your pinks would be 10 to 20 inches of snowfall. And we even see some pastel blues there for the mountainous regions of Montana and Wyoming, which would be 20 to 30 inches of snowfall. Again, keep in mind, take this with a really take it with a grain of salt, because this is far out and it's unusual for this time of year. That combination usually leads me to believe that this is a low probability event. But seeing a snowstorm of some sort for somewhere would be a much higher probability than this exact track happening. So I think snowfall, and maybe even some unusual snowfall over the next 15 days, is more probable than not. Let's keep that in mind. Now, let's go ahead and move on to talk about the 5-day graphical tropical weather outlook. So here we are taking a look at it. This is that storm that the GFS model is alluding to, potentially becoming a hurricane or at least a very strong tropical storm. It has a 30% chance of development over the next 48 hours, so there's a decent chance we'll see this one develop very, very soon. And it has a 40% chance over the next 5 days of development, which is a more medium chance. And we can see it's heading right for that sweet spot. Usually north of Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, and Haiti, heading towards the Bahamas is the sweet spot for major hurricanes in the Atlantic. That seems to be the ultimate track for development. It doesn't really hit those mountains. As long as it doesn't go on the southern end of that orange track, it would have amazing opportunity to develop. Unfortunately, we can only hope, and it sounds kind of wrong, but we can only hope that this actually hits those mountainous islands to the south, because that would probably keep this storm at less than a hurricane. Most likely, if it was to hit Puerto Rico, Dominican Republic, Haiti, Cuba, this storm would really have less chance of development, and it wouldn't be a major storm for them either. Really, the biggest threat here would be if it misses those islands and then it heads towards the Bahamas. That's when you get some major hurricanes and even threatening the United States, and that would obviously be more impactful for pretty much everybody. So hitting those mountains would be ideal here. This yellow one to the east of that orange one is going to be our next threat after that, although this one looks to head pretty far north, which usually means it's going to be a fish storm, which means it's not really going to impact anybody. This one only has a 20% chance of development over the next 5 days, and it actually has a 0% chance of development over the next 48 hours. So we're going to have to wait and see with this one. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. Be sure to smash that like button if you did enjoy this video. Be sure to leave a comment down below with your thoughts and subscribe for more weather-related content. I'll see you guys in the next video.